So today in this video, I'm going to tell you why I think that the American government should be more like the British Parliament. So I really didn't know a whole lot about Liz Truss, only that she was elected Prime Minister at the beginning of September. She was a very historic figure because, as most people know, she was the last Prime Minister to be asked to form a government by our late Queen, or not our late Queen, by the British late Queen, Queen Elizabeth. Only days into office, Miss Truss announces the passing of Queen Elizabeth. I think it was like 2 days. She also made a speech about the direction she saw for the British people. She had big plans of cutting taxes and building prosperity in Britain, and I was really rooting for her. About a month into her office, I saw her name keep popping up in all of my news feeds on YouTube. So finally, one day, I clicked on a video to see what was going on. And this is what popped up.
A book is being written about the Prime Minister's time in office. Apparently, it's going to be out by Christmas. Is that the release date or the title?
So I immediately clicked off thinking this was just some kind of parody that was on The Late Show. I was literally thinking, wow, it looks so real. The people look so real. They look exactly like who they're supposed to be. They must have a really great budget for their Late Show over there. Then I clicked on another video and it was the same exact thing. So a super quick summary of Liz Truss's time in office. So she decides to enact this really big tax cut, like really big. And so everyone was getting tax cuts. The rich, the poor, businesses, alcohol, property, massive tax cuts for everyone. It was even described as being the biggest tax reform in Britain in the last 50 years. And it was going to cost the British people about £100 billion. All the while, Britain has had record high, like everywhere else, Britain has record high inflation of 40 years, an energy crisis, and like a super, super bad economy. So she goes and she announces all of these tax breaks. However, she failed to make a budget or explain where any of this £100 billion was going to come from. So as you can imagine, the financial markets went berserk and everything was in complete chaos. The value of the pound plummeted and investors ditched government bonds. It was so bad, pension funds were within hours of collapsing, hours. So the Bank of England announced that they were going to spend billions of dollars to stabilize the economy and secure the pension plans. So then Truss announces that she is going to reverse all the tax breaks, well, almost all of the tax breaks. And she also says she's sorry. So she basically almost single-handedly collapsed the whole British economy. Just like that. But she's sorry.
Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry.
So every sitting Wednesday, which I assume is every Wednesday the Parliament meets, the Prime Minister has to answer questions from other members of Parliament for 30 minutes. And look at the kind of questions they ask her.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister ignored every question put to her. Instead, she repeatedly criticised Labour's plan for a 6-month freeze on energy bills. This week, the Chancellor made it her policy. How can she be held to account when she's not in charge? Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister stood there and promised absolutely no spending reductions. They all cheered. This week, the Chancellor announced a new wave of cuts. What's the point of a Prime Minister whose promises don't even last a week? Mr. Speaker, those spending cuts are on the table for one reason and one reason only, because they crashed the economy. And working people are going to have to pay £500 more a month on their mortgages. And what's the Prime Minister's response? To say she's sorry. What does she think people will think and say? That's all right, I don't mind financial ruin, at least she apologised. Mr. Speaker, she's asking me questions because we're a government in waiting and they're an opposition in waiting. There's no getting away from this. Millions of people are facing horrendous mortgage repayments, and she's admitted it's her fault. She shouldn't have conducted an economic experiment on the British public. But it's not just her. They put her there. They're keeping her there. Why on earth would anyone trust the Tories with the economy ever again? Mr. Speaker, the only mandate she's ever had is from members opposite. It was a mandate built on fantasy economics, and it ended in disaster. The country's got nothing to show for it except the destruction of the economy and the implosion of the Tory party. I've got the list here. 45p tax cut, gone. Corporation tax cut, gone. 20p tax cut, gone. 2-year energy freeze, gone. Tax-free shopping, gone. Economic credibility, gone. And her supposed best friend, the former Chancellor, he's gone as well. They're all gone. So why is she still here?
And do you know what happens? Everyone is appalled and screaming, sexist! No, because that only happens in America, and we're talking about Britain. Do you know how Liz Truss responds? She responds with policy. That's right, policy.
Mr. Speaker, I have been in office for just under 2 months, and I have delivered the energy price guarantee, making sure that people aren't paying £6,000 bills this winter. I've reversed the national insurance increase, and I've also taken steps, and we will be taking steps, to crack down on the militant unions. Now, what, Mr. Speaker? I think, Mr. Speaker, that is more of a record of action than the honourable gentleman in his 2.5 years in the job. I am a fighter and not a quitter.
This approach does seem quite effective. As it turns out, she did quit her job. She quit the next day after this PQM. And that also makes her the shortest serving Prime Minister ever. So this is what Netflix should be doing a docuseries about. Last Prime Minister under Queen Elizabeth II, the shortest serving Prime Minister, and she almost single-handedly brought down the whole British economy in 45 days. So back to America. Wouldn't it be awesome to have a question and answer session every week with our government where they just go head to head and they talk about policy? It would be so much better than all the behind closed doors discussions that we have going on now. The he said, she said games that they play on the different news outlets. And not to mention all the backdoor agenda pushing. I would love to see this question and answer session with no name calling, no racism, no sexism, no whatever accusations, just plain discussions on policy and what you are doing for the American people. Every Wednesday for 30 minutes, go. My name is Jessica. Please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.